Hi, kids. It's story time again with Frog and Toad. Here we go. The first story is a list. One morning, Toad sat up in bed. I have many things to do, he said. I will write them down, all down on a list so that I can remember them. Toad wrote on a piece of paper a list of things to do today. Then he wrote, Wake up. That was the first one. I have done that, said Toad, and he crossed it out. There's Toad. You see with him with his list? Oops. There we go. With his list, crossing it out. Do you do lists? Does your mom and dad do your mom and dad do lists? I do lists sometimes. Then Toad wrote other things on the paper. A list of things to do today. And here they are. Can you see them? Yes, right there. Eat breakfast. Get dressed. Go to Frog's house. Take walk with Frog. Eat lunch. Yummy. Take nap. Ooh, that's good. Play games with Frog. Eat supper. Go to sleep. There, said Toad. Now my day is all written down. He got out of bed and had something to eat. Then Toad crossed out, eat breakfast. Can you cross it out? Go, cross it out. Right? There he is. Right there. See him crossing it out? Toad took his clothes out of the closet and put them on. Then he crossed out, get dressed. Toad put the list in his pocket. There he is, putting the list in his pocket after he's crossed it out. He opened the door and walked out into the morning. Soon Toad was at Frog's front door. He took out the list from his pocket and crossed out, go to Frog's house. Oops, there it is. So there he is, going out the front door to Frog's house. Toad knocked at the door. Hello, said Frog. Look at my list of things to do, said Toad. Oh, said Frog, that is very nice. Toad said, My list tells me that we will go for a walk. All right, said Frog, I am ready. There they are, the front door, getting ready to go for a walk. Frog and Toad went on a long walk. They probably actually hopped, I bet you. Then Toad took the list from his pocket again and crossed out, take walk with Frog. Just then, there was a strong wind. Whoosh! It blew the list out of Toad's hand. The list blew high up into the air. Have you ever been there? Have you had that happen here in Oklahoma? Ooh, lots of things get blown around in Oklahoma. There it is. There goes, whoops, there goes the list. Ah! Help, cried Toad. My list is blowing away. What will I do without my list? Hurry, said Frog. We will run and catch it. No, shouted Toad. I cannot do that. Why not? Asked Frog. Because, wailed Toad, running after my list is not one of the things that I wrote on my list of things to do. That's silly. There goes Frog trying to chase Toad's list. Frog ran after the list. He ran over hills and swamps, but the list blew on and on. At last, Frog came back to Toad. I'm sorry, gasped Frog, but I could not catch your list. Blah, said Toad. There they are. I cannot remember any of the things that were on my list of things to do. I will just have to sit here and do nothing, said Toad. Toad sat and did nothing. Frog sat with him. After a long time, Frog said, Toad, it's getting dark. We should be going to sleep now. You see the sun? You see the sun going down? Read that right. There you go. See the sun? Go to sleep, shouted Toad. That was the last thing on my list. Toad wrote on the ground with a stick, "Go to sleep." Then he crossed it out. There, said Toad. Now my day is all crossed out. I'm glad, said Frog. Then Frog and Toad went right to sleep. There they are. I bet you some of you might be getting close to going right to sleep. And now, the garden. Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. What a fine garden you have, Frog, he said. Yes, said Frog. It is very nice, but it was hard work. I wish I had a garden, said Toad. Here are some flower seeds. Plant them in the ground, said Frog. And soon you will have a garden. How soon? asked Toad. Quite soon, said Frog. See that? There you go. Have you ever grown a garden? Toad ran home. He planted his flower seeds. Now, seeds, said Toad, start growing. Is that how seeds grow? Toad walked up and down a few times. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, Now, seeds, start growing. Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. There he is walking around, see? And there he is talking to his seeds. You know, I think if I started talking to my seeds, Mrs. Philibert would think I'm probably a little bit off my rocker. Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, Now, seeds, start growing. Frog came running up the path. What is all this noise? He asked. My seeds will not grow, said Toad. You're shouting too much, said Frog. These poor seeds are afraid to grow. My seeds are afraid to grow? Asked Toad. Of course, said Frog. Leave them alone for a few days. Let the sun shine on them. Let the rain fall on them. Soon your seeds will start to grow. There's Toad shouting at his seeds. And there's Frog telling him to take it easy with them. That night, Toad looked out of his window. Drat, said Toad. My seeds have not started to grow. They must be afraid of the dark. Toad went out to his garden with some candles. I will read the seeds a story, said Toad. Then they will not be afraid. Toad read a long story to his seeds. There he is, reading stories to his seeds. All the next day, Toad sang songs to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad read poems to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad played music for his seeds. There he is, singing songs, reading poetry, and what was that one? He's playing music, singing with his violin. Do you see the violin? Let me get closer. There he is with his violin. See it right there. Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. What will I do? Cried Toad. These must be the most frightened seeds in the whole world. Then Toad felt very tired and he fell asleep. There's Toad. See him? He's all asleep now. Toad, wake up, said Frog. Look at your garden. Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants were coming up out of the ground. At last, at last, shouted Toad, my seeds have stopped being afraid to grow. And now you will have a nice garden too, said Frog. Yes, said Toad, but you were right, Frog. It was very hard work. So there was Frog and Toad, a list and the garden. I hope you all have a good night.